and welcome everyone. It is just about, let's see, 15 minutes past the hour right here in the studios of WIN FM, and welcome to another edition of Money Matters right here. Money Matters is a literacy public awareness program with Mr. Tally Francis, who I have in studio with me. Good morning, Mr. Francis.
Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
He is a financial coach and consultant, and the program is also brought to you by WIN FM, and it airs every Wednesday at 10:15 a.m. right here on WIN FM. So, in the first episode, we were discussing having a spending plan, aka a budget, and which can help control your expenses and save some money. You also assured us as well last week that budgets are not complicated, and it's a tool to know where the income will be spent instead of having no plan and trying to figure out where your money went. Sounds about right?
Correct, and that's a very nice summary. Very good.
Yes, all right. So we're going to delve into one of the budget types, because I think you mentioned about 4 of them last week, and so we're going to delve into a few of them today. You spoke specifically, though, about a little bit for the benefit of those who didn't actually listen last week, or didn't catch it on our social media pages, which you can on YouTube and on Facebook, winmedia.skn.com, so you can look that up. So we spoke about the types of budgets, and we talked about the 50-30-20 budget. So 50% of the income goes to your needs, yes, and then the 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt.
That's correct. And you made me go to the practical side by giving a few examples as to what would fall under each category.
Well, that's because we want listeners, myself included, to use the information so they can, put it into practice, really. Some people are very uneasy about budgeting and thinking that it's really complicated. So, once they have everything presented to them, then they can make the best decision as to which one they can choose.
Sure. And I mean, that's the goal of this program, really, to ensure that everyone can find something in it that they can use to handle money better, to save a little more, and even to get to invest where possible.
All right. So what we're going to do right now is...
Well, I think you can give me some of your...
I could give you like a couple of examples.
Yes.
And then you tell me which category it would fall into.
Yes.
In the 50-30 plan. All right.
Let's do that.
So let's get into it. Let me start off with, the thing that most women would be into. Clothing and jewelry.
In the 3 categories, clothing and jewelry would be split. It should fall into the needs category for your basic clothing, that your elementary clothing, the things that you really need as clothing.
Like stuff for work, and you need that.
Correct. So those would be your needs. You put 50% on that, and then but you have clothing and jewelry and similar things that would then fall into the discretionary spending, which will be wants. Because those would be the 3rd burgundy high heel shoe.
Okay, I understand that completely. Understand.
Or the 4th pink bag, or snack. What do you call a clutch bag, and so on.
Yes.
And for the men, the 3rd brown shoe and the 4th skin fit jeans.
And the latest sneakers that are out there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Especially the high price one with the brand name. Those would fall into discretionary spend and wants. You don't absolutely need it. So when you're doing your budget, if you want to spend on that this time, you're actually going into the wants.
Okay. So credit card payments, because in buying those things, sometimes you put them on your credit card if you do have one.
Yes, and credit card payments, we should put in, so we have 50% needs, 30% or thereabout your wants, and then your savings and debt servicing. So if you have credit card payments to make, and just because you are spending on credit card on some of your wants, first of all, to pay your credit card is to be in the 20%. So that is to ensure that you have a minimal amount of extra debt, and as well as if you're paying off your credit card, it means that you're increasing your ability to save. So that is in the 20% part of it.
Okay, so
Yes.
The 20%.
Yes. While we're at it, maybe I should tell you that someone asked last program we spoke about debt being 20% and whether the mortgage payment would be part of that.
That's a good question, actually.
Yes, an excellent question we got offline. So the mortgage relates to your housing, relates to your shelter, and that is a need. So your mortgage payment is really an essential payment, and that will be part of your 50%. What we call debt on the other side is really that 20% should be if you do hire purchase. If you have bad debt like payday loans and so on, you need to get rid of those quickly. Use 20% of your income to make sure that you're getting that reduced.
Okay, yeah, because really your mortgage is more pressing than any other thing because you need somewhere to live.
That is true. That is true. That's part of your essential. That's part of your needs. As a matter of fact, there are some young people who would say, I am saving for down payment towards a mortgage. That comes in the 20%, but depending on your financial situation, that also belongs to your need because perhaps you have a time by which
You want to actually
yes,
own.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What about, let's say, child support or alimony?
You could go to jail for that, you know.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Therefore, it's an essential. I mean, this is something that first of all, child support is really an essential. That's one of our purpose of in life. To be fruitful and to participate in creation's longevity. So you actually, and then your children have no other source but you. So that's an essential. It's an obligation, and so you should be having that in the needs. As far as alimony and so on is concerned, that would be an obligation that the court would have told you, or you would have committed with your separated spouse or so. So you should. That is really part of your needs. You want to pay that off.
Okay. What about, say, electricity or gas? What category would that fall in?
Right. House gas, electricity, those are essential these days. You need those too. That's part of your food preparation. It's also part of your comfortable living at home. So I would say that is also needs.
Okay. Wine, alcohol?
There are those who say a glass of wine every night is very healthy, and it has yes, it's an antioxidant and all these fine reasons, and so alcoholic beverages and so on. Those are discretionary spending. You actually like it, but you don't absolutely need it. Therefore, when you're going to spend on it, tell yourself you're spending on something you're not bound to, so that should be part of the 30%, your wants. And in fact, one of the things you can do as far as being able to save more is concerned is to reduce on alcohol consumption and put the money that you use for that towards your savings. That would be going towards your future self, towards investment. It will increase your wealth.
Okay. Let's see what else childcare. Childcare, I would think, is an essential. So
yes.
That would fall in the 50%?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Travel expenses, you're planning a trip to go somewhere. Where would that fall?
Yes. So if you're planning, then that will be part of your 20% because, you actually are preparing for a date that that you want to travel and you have an idea as to what the cost may be. And, you also have to put aside for the shopping and so on while you're there on the vacation. So that will go into the savings, into the 20%, because you put aside bit by bit. After you take care of your essentials for the month, you would. Now, that's if you're planning. If you actually did it and you now owing on it, I would say this is an essential that you should try to get rid of as quickly as possible. Depending on the type of debt you went into, you should put it as part of your essential because you need to get rid of it so that you improve your financial situation month by month. And then you also have to tell yourself already to don't do it again if you had done it before.
Okay.
So travel and vacation and so on, these are things that you should be preparing for over time from your income so that when it's time to do it, you don't have to borrow money to do it or you don't have to use your credit cards or so to incur debt while doing it.
That would be nice, but I don't think that actually works out.
Well,
That's talking from my own experience. We try, but it's a lot. Yeah. Public transportation?
I would say that's an essential. You need to get from place to place, especially you need to get to work and so. And again, for a comfortable living, lifestyle, you may need to, get from one place to another. Where the public transport system is good, that is not only an essential for the financial planning and the budgeting, but it's an essential for your lifestyle and for your choices of what to do with your money. Because if you can get by on public transportation without a problem, it means that is one loan, one expense for personal and private vehicle that you don't have to pay for quite some time. And a lot of young people fall into this problem, you know. They get an income, they start to work, maybe because they don't have to pay mommy and daddy for rent. Instead of saving that money for later on and using public transportation, which is far cheaper, then they buy a car. That immediately puts you into debt, and it reduces your financial ability to be free in times to come.
Okay, so that car payment, once you buy that car, that, like you just mentioned, goes into the 50%.
Yes, because it's an obligation right there. It's an essential, and you have to make sure that you cover it every month.
Okay. Groceries and toiletries, essential.
Essential.
So
those
50%.
Household things, 50%. That's right. Yes.
All right. So there you had it, listeners, a few examples, you know, to how to choose, what category those expenses would fall into. So you have an idea, hopefully.
Yes.
At some point, we probably should maybe open the lines, but we'll discuss that because I'm
Yes.
sure a couple of people have maybe some questions that.
Yes, like that wonderful offline question. But you know, just what we just did a moment ago, the way you've quizzed me, that's the way we should be thinking, like the day before the payday, in preparation for what
Maybe
to
even
do,
before then, yeah.
or even before that as
Yeah.
well, to know what to do. So as we say, it's the awareness that you need to bring your mind and bring your whole attitude to a place where you can be better able to handle your money. You handling the money, not the situation, not the circumstance, but you handling your money by planning.
And of course, sometimes there are some months where even though you have a plan, something comes up unexpectedly and you have to work that in. But for the most part, you actually have to have a plan, a set plan.
Yes.
And hopefully it all goes well that month and you could get to stick to that plan.
Yes, yes. And there are certain things, you know, steps you have to take to keep your discipline and to stick to the plan as well, you know, and we can, you know, so at some time during our next few programs, we could be speaking about this. I wanted to give you an anecdote. There is a famous financial planning and personal finance guru, fellow called Jim Rohn. Listeners and viewers can Google Jim Rohn, R-H-O-N. He has a lot to say about financing, and he actually has a system similar to the 50-30-20 rule. He has one which is 70-10-10. But I can explain that later. But what I wanted to tell you is something that he said. His mentor had asked him, "How much money do you have saved and invested, Jim?" He said $0. And his mentor said, "But that's not a good number." And Jim Rohn responded to him. He said, "If I had more money, I could have planned to have savings." And his mentor said to him, "If you had planned, you may have had much more money to be
Yeah.
able to save."
Not truthfully.
Yes.
Because when you're younger, you don't really think about that too much. You figure, okay, I work, I have the money, so let me buy this. You know, I want to indulge a little bit.
Yes.
It's all about me because, again, you're young.
Yes.
And you don't have anything really to really think about. It's probably not until you get to like your late 20s and you're like, you know, maybe I should start saving.
Yes, that's
Because,
right.
you know, you spend everything almost all every month, and then afterward, you know, you figure. But if you had actually planned to start saving when you were younger, then of course, by the time you get to another age, or a certain age, you'll have even more money.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, it's like, you can't really blame the youth, especially if we were not given the encouragement, the advice, and so on.
True.
And a lot of parents, we spoil the youth as well. You know, we have them at home, we make them make no contribution to the house. So the income is there in front of them, you know, without any discipline or training or so. And here is where Jim Rohn had actually given, he was very big on teaching teenagers, mid-teenagers and young people about financial freedom, preparing for it from your teens, from your youthful age. And he said, what do you tell a child to do with $1? I mean, it's a child and it's just $1. So why do you make that an issue? And he said it's extremely important to make that an issue because it is at a young age that you begin to build habits. And what he said, his suggestion and his rule that he developed was, tell the child to spend 70 cents of every dollar you get, whether you earn $1 or you be gifted $1, and it's for us adults as well. You spend 70 cents on your needs, on your wants. Just spend 70 cents for yourself, and then the other 30 cents you do like this: you take 10 cents, you spend that, you contribute that to charity. For some religious people, that is 10% tithes. So it means you do the same, but you give the church to do it, to do charity. So 10 cents on charity. Then he said use 10 cents for capital. And what he meant by that is 10 cents to invest in something that you will use to make more 10 cents, to make more dollars. So that is like, use it as capital, use it as an investment in a business. So if we are working, for example, you invest it in a side hustle. Invest it in material to do some sewing or to make some masks to sell or something. Invest it in something. So 10 cents, you save it until it is good enough to invest. And in the other 10 cents, you use that now to put for other people to use. So that's the 10 cents you leave in the bank to save, or the 10 cents you buy stocks, in National Bank or wherever with, so that it will be passive income. You've put it aside and somebody else will use it, and they will give you either interest from it or they will give you dividend because you invested in the company or so. So the child, even the young person, could even take that, and that's a very simple budgeting style, the 70-30 or 70-10-10-10. And charity was very important as far as you're concerned, because we have to teach ourselves from very early that being generous and giving is really a pathway to financial freedom in the future.
Yes, it is. All right, so they're hearing us talking about budgeting. They're hearing the types of budgeting and how to budget. When do they start budgeting?
Yes, as early as possible, as we said, and as we say, the budget doesn't have to be down to figures, but, the budget can be just ballpark, but you know what each category is, receiving. So you budget as early as possible. And the budget is a plan, all we say is a spending plan, really. And it is just you saying what you want with your money. Now, some people might be very already advanced in age, advanced in career, and just starting. So if you're just starting and your financial situation is very tight, it means you cannot really allocate a high percentage of your income to savings or so. You have already tapped out. So here is where maybe 90% of your income is on essentials. If that's the case, you can still plan and budget, and it also depends on your objectives. Yeah.
Okay. So no excuse, basically.
No, there is no, even not having a lot of money as your income, even not having a stable income, none of these are reasons why you should not plan. As we said, the money is coming to you. It is yours. But if you don't decide what you do with it, it quickly removes itself from you and it belongs to someone else. If you do not put it aside so that you can actually have it for tomorrow, it means that tomorrow you are running by the wayside looking for money.
All right. So in choosing a budget type, it depends on your situation and the goals that you have, yes?
Yes, correct. Yes. So to choose which style of budget, which type of budget to use, whether you should be down to the details or whether you should use general, it really depends on your financial situation now and what your objectives are. So we could, for example, see, suppose your objective right now as a beginner is to just get started. Then in that case, you can use the general percentage-based budgeting. So in that way, you don't have to pay attention to every bill. So all you know is that you put aside for savings. And you can do this very easily if you are working stable employment and you can do salary deduction. So you can open an account just for saving, and you can have your employer split your salary. And so the 10% goes into savings automatically. So that helps you. And you can then decide you're going to move from your account where you get your salary by standing order into the other account, which is for your investments or which for your preparation for your future financial freedom. And then the rest of it you spend as usual. So that's a way in which if you are just starting, you can do until you really get up to scratch with, what you are more comfortable with.
Okay. We're actually getting a phone call, so I'll take it. Hi, good morning. Oh, sorry about that. Let me try another one. Hi, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. You have a question?
I want to say thank you very much for your education and giving people tips on how to save and so on, but I will not take away, but just add to it. And I must remind everyone that he who failed to plan to fail. You must always have a plan and preparation to go forward. And I will just draw a couple, for instance. If you normally pay someone $20 to cut your yard every week or every month, and someone cut it for you for free, you don't use that money, you put it in a saving. And you must put it in a saving where you cannot touch. And when you're going shopping, check your cupboard. to make sure that the things that you need are not inside the cupboard and you don't go to the store to buy what you have. Always have a list. Always have a plan. If you did not plan to buy it, don't buy it. The person who is selling always plan to sell. That is his plan, his job to sell. Your job is to make sure you don't buy. You can always shop, but shopping and buying is two different things. Shop means that you're looking. Buying means when you do the transaction, your money left you and you take home the foolishness. There are lots of times people take home things and they have in the house, they just like it for one time and they put it in the corner and that's the rest of it. That is your money sitting in the corner and gathering dust, you cannot use it and you don't have any access to it. And it's dead money. So therefore, plan to spend. There's a harder job in spending money than making money. And any fool could make money, but it takes a wise man to spend it. And the fool and his money will soon depart. He who failed to plan to fail. Thank you, sir. Carry on, Marty, and I will continue to listen.
Thank you so much, caller.
Yeah, sure. Really on point, and it underscores the point of the importance of you deciding, because if you don't decide, it will happen. And that point about spending being easier than even earning, but spending still to be done properly is harder, and that is true.
Yeah, it really is. And he also brought up a great point. Make sure you make a list for grocery shopping, because honestly, there's nothing worse than you thinking you need something and then you go home and you realize you already had it, so you didn't need to spend that money on that. You could have gone to something else, another category altogether. So that's important, which works for the budget.
That's correct.
It works for the budget. All right. So let's see. We already talked about the types of budgets. We talked about picking a budget depending on your situation.
Right.
How often would you say that you have to set aside money for a budget? Is it a once a month thing for somebody who's working or receiving payments, say every 2 weeks? How does that work?
Right. There's no hard and fast rule, right? But it would be depending on what you have decided would be your budget style and your budget type. And it also depends on how much time you are willing to put into it. Some people also find that their financial situation is so good that they could actually check their budget and structure the budget maybe once a year or twice a year. Now, if you are beginning though, and if you really have not been, properly handling your money up to now, I would say you need to do it more frequently. You need to pay attention to your money, and that is what the spending plan is. The budget itself, how you set it up, you can set it up once and use it forever until you decide to change it. And there will always be changes because your financial situation changes. So to answer, I would say it depends on your situation. If you are in charge and in control of everything, then the budget itself, you could relook it and try to restructure it, change the categories once every year or every twice a year or so. But in terms of monitoring and managing your money, you actually need to do that more frequently. And if you were, and that would be monthly for the regular person who is, in control of their monies. But if you were just starting, I would say every time you get to the end of the week, you're preparing for the next week. If you shop weekly, if you shop fortnightly, that should be related to the times that you dedicate yourself to budgeting, because every time you're going to go out, then you need to pay attention to what you're spending. But what concerns the budget structure, if you're going to be formal about it, you could budget even once a year, you could budget every half year, you could budget every 3 months, you could go and visit that budget, putting an eye on it for half an hour. But as what concerns handling your money from that spending planning kind of way, if you just start in every week, maybe even every transaction for some people, and if you, like a young person, you would really want to take care that you on top of your money every fortnight, every month if you get paid monthly, I would say.
Okay. Any other tips on how to choose the right type and style of budget for you?
Right. So if, for example, you have a hard time controlling your spending, then perhaps you can try to use a style that is controlled by limits. So you can do cash budget, for example. You can only spend with cash or based on a cash-funded bank debit card. So you know that that would help you to control, because you know the limit you have and that's all you would spend. So you would want to use a cash-based type of budgeting, even where you use an app or even when you use a debit card, you're not bound to use an envelope like in the olden days. But you set limits, just like the envelope system gives limits. And so that will help you to curb spending. In other words, you dictate to yourself, I will only spend this, and you say that beforehand. And then whether it is your debit card or it is cash that you take out to spend in a certain area, you only spend on that. For example, if you always overburden yourself when you go to the cashier in a grocery store, you could actually tell yourself, I'm only going in with this amount of cash, and that's all I would do. If you pick up too much, in the first and the second time, it might be embarrassing, but it would have helped you that you have only $200, and that's all you can tell the cashier, so you have to put back some things.
Right.
Right? Now, if your priority then, if your objective at this stage in life, your middle age or your middle career or so, is to do savings because you realize that you have not done any savings, up to now, then you can use the pay yourself first style of budgeting. In that one, you don't worry too much about the details of the money that you'll spend on different things. What you're worried about is that every month you save a certain amount. So you might decide, well, for all that I want to do in savings, retirement, for travel next year, for Christmas gifts and so on, you decide this, I'm going to be spending 18% of my salary in the future. So you put that aside as savings. And so the pay yourself first style of budgeting is one that you could use to, if you want to prioritize saving. That was what we call the value-based budget. So that's another way you can choose. And then if you are in a position where you are advanced, you're experienced, or you're very concerned and worried because your income is so small or you have no retirement yet and so on, you want to take care of every single dollar that you spend. You want to make sure you know what you're doing with it so that you could keep either the 50-30-20 or the 70-10-10-10 rule. You want to use a budget like the zero-based budgeting so that you will discipline every month or every fortnight. You will sit down and write down everything you will spend on, and you will take the income and you will minus that, all your income, your net income, it must be, income after tax and your take-home pay, you minus from that the expenses. So using the zero-based budgeting would be good for a person who wants to know where every single dollar is going and who have the time and is willing to contribute to himself by paying attention to the budget, dedicating time to it every single week or month or so. You can use a zero-based budgeting. So this is just to exemplify and to say it depends on your objective. You use a style of budgeting that will help you out. And there are certain apps that you could use, as I mentioned last time, and certain bank websites that have little spreadsheets and so to help us to budget. And it is good to use them as well, because you could be using technology to help you do what we used to do manually, and it is sometimes very easy. An app, for example, that helps the zero-based budget is an app called Every Dollar.
Every Dollar.
Every Dollar is an app that you can use, and there is also another app called Good Budget, which is the cash-based or the cash envelope system, but on your phone.
On your phone, yeah.
Yes, so these can be used as well. And we give these resources so that, viewers and listeners could, check them out. And as another resource, I mentioned Jim Rohn earlier on. Those who are looking at us on YouTube, as soon as we finish, you could actually nip into YouTube, and look for Rohn. Just Google him and 70-10-10-10 rule, and you would hear a very, very nice, very informative presentation that they've saved from him. Right? So yes, so those are the steps I would say, in a nutshell, that we can take, and that's the approach. Because what we're trying to give here is an approach, that you can take to help you get on your way to handling your money better and making it work for you.
Okay, give me the names of those apps again.
So there's one, Good Budget. There is another, Every Dollar.
Okay, Good Budget and Every Dollar.
Yes.
So go to your Google Play Store, download those apps, and get started. Because we need to save as much as we can, because you see how everything is so expensive.
Yes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
you need to be conscious of what is happening with your money. It is harder to save today than it was yesterday.
True.
And there's all the thing like inflation, rising prices of the same thing you bought yesterday. And so we will be speaking about the opportunities we would have to, even when there is rising prices, to still get your goods for the same price that you used to. You can do some tips on that later.
All right, so we will be talking about that, like you said. Actually, we are out of time. Any final words that you want to share before we close off?
Yes, just to quickly say that the aim of financial planning is really to take us to a position where we are not hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, job to job. To get there, you must put a little effort in. nobody will really pay us to be more productive for ourselves. So we have to do things that help us to individually and as families put aside for a rainy day and put aside for a better day tomorrow, whether there is rain or not. And that has to do with planning to save and actually beginning to spend in a way that you can save and invest wisely.
That's a good word, Mr. Francis. It's a very good word. Thank you so much. And everyone, be sure you check us out. If you caught the tail end of this program, you could go back to our Facebook page and view it there. Yes, we're streaming live. And you can also go to our YouTube page, Win Media SKN, and look at the program there as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. We look forward to another program right here on 1FM next week, Wednesday at 10:15. Have a good one.
Looking forward. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
You too.
Okay, bye.